Hi everybody, it's Russ from My Hammers 11. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you're notified of any time we put new content on. Lots of great guests coming up this week. I know I say that every week, but more and more so, and particularly today. What can I say about him? He played 225 games for the club. He scored 99 goals in total across a 5-year period. He was obviously part of the 1980 FA Cup winning team, and the only man for West Ham to have scored a hat-trick in European competitions, which is an accolade I think will stay live for at least a couple of seasons. It's Mr. David Cross. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Ross. It feels a bit like Groundhog Day.
It does, doesn't it? Doesn't it? And not just for our video, but just life in general at the moment with the lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
What we're doing with this channel, David, is basically interviewing loads of West Ham fans, obviously, across the world, different ages, about their memories of West Ham, of supporting West Ham. Obviously, at the moment, we haven't got live football, so we've got nothing to create new memories for. So it's quite sort of cathartic, just understanding a bit about, obviously, West Ham fans' individual experiences, memories, but also their 11, the players that meant something to them, or maybe, fans' favourite players and things like that as well. So obviously, for you, we've had a few players on the channel already. Obviously, yourself, David, you joined in. I'm going to refer to my notes this time because just so I don't bug it up again. Obviously, you joined in 77 from West Brom for a record-breaking transfer for West Ham at the time. That was December, and obviously you played West Brom the following week. Was that right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was odd, really. I'd left. I signed for West Ham actually on my 27th birthday, wow, which is the 8th of December. And my the first game, it was a Thursday, I think, and the Saturday I wasn't able to play because I'd missed the deadline. And we played at home against Man United. And actually, that was the first game we'd won all season. Oh, so, wow. The club, we were in fairly dire straits at that time. I think Trevor scored the winning goal against United that day. I think we won 2-1, which was great for me because we'd just signed and I wasn't at the game. I was back home, back in Coventry, just making sure I got all my stuff together to get back down to start training on the Monday. But it was good to get that win under the belt. And for me, it was a little boost because, somewhere along the line, you might think that the lads thought, oh, the new signing, we might have a goal scorer. And we won because of that. But it was good that I went in on the Monday with that under my belt.
Yeah.
The next Saturday, as you said, it was against my mates who had just left 8 days earlier, so it was really strange to play against them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, I can see you coming in and having that sort of win under your belt. It's a bit of a boost, isn't it? So you're not. I imagine the pressure's, obviously you were a record signing at the time. The pressure was slightly off because we'd won a game, so there was like momentum going into going to Monday and on the Saturday. What's it like, when you've because obviously something I've never asked actually, when you've played for a club, obviously you're at West Brom for a while, and then you left, and then you play them again so soon. Is it strange? Is it, does the manager tap you up for info about the players that week, or?
Well, yeah. Effectively, I was just like a spy in the camp, if you like. I mean, I knew what they were going to do. I knew how they were likely to play. I knew what the formation was likely to be. I knew the two centre backs were just two fantastic defenders, Alistair Robertson and John Weil, who were two big guys who took no prisoners at all. So, I gave as much information to John as I possibly could. And we went it was very strange playing against those lads who I'd been with for like 18 months. It really was.
Yeah, I can totally imagine. I can see, I remember when, we've had like old players come back and they accidentally walk into the wrong changing room and things like that because they're so used to it. It must be so bizarre. But obviously, we're full. You've had all the 40-year anniversary. Obviously the FA Cup was such an amazing. Unfortunately, not so my age, but I wasn't alive at the time. I was born the year after, unfortunately. So to make you feel old, David, but that's what happens. But obviously, everyone talks to you about that game and about that day. Obviously it must have been such a special thing to be part of. Obviously not a lot of people can have that on their CV, you know, an FA Cup win. For you, you know, in terms of your memories of that day, you know, do any sort of key things stick out that that was, you know, that particularly poignant or memorable?
Well, I mean, the FA Cup final back then, Russ, was really the only live game that was shown all year on TV, unless there was an international fixture. So, as I grew up as a little boy through the 50s and 60s, the only game you were able to watch live on television was the cup final. So it meant so much then, much more probably then to us than it does to people now. So if you'd asked, even now, I think if you ask a professional footballer what one of his ambitions might be, they'd probably say they'd like to play in the cup final. They don't actually say they'd like to win the cup. They'd like to play in the cup final. So playing in the cup final is like an achievement in itself, regardless of how you do, really. I mean, obviously you want to win the cup, but to be part of that day, certainly back then, was a huge thing. So I played at Wembley before. I played for Norwich City against Tottenham in the League Cup final in '73, and we lost, and I didn't play very well. The team didn't really perform. I think we were a little bit too nervous. Such a big occasion. So I was determined when 1980 and the 10th of May came round that I wouldn't be able to determine whether we'd win, wouldn't really be able to determine whether I played well, but I could remember the game and enjoy it, which I didn't do for the '73 game. I didn't enjoy it at all, and I could hardly remember anything about it. So I was determined to make sure that I remembered everything about this day, and I did. In the end, I did.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, famously, you know, West Ham, that win was still the last time out, you know, a club outside the top divisions won the FA Cup. What was it less pressure going into it because you were so, you know, not the favourite, so to speak?
Yeah, I think you're right. You hit it on the head. We weren't favourites by a long chalk. I mean, Arsenal were a very, very good side. We were second division, like you said. There was no pressure on us at all. I think just so long as we did all right on that day and didn't let ourselves down and didn't let the fans down, I think, you know, we would have come out of that with our heads high. But as it happened, we got the early goal. We hung on. They didn't really understand what tactics John Lyle had produced for that game. And by the time they did work it out, it was a little bit too late in terms of we'd scored our goal. So, yeah, I mean, it was just such a fantastic day for us, and more than that, really, it was such a good day for the fans. You know, even now when I don't watch the game back because it's not a great game, to be perfectly honest. You know, we got an early goal and then we defended, but I do just keep seeing the fans and what they got from that day, and you know that was really important to me because the fans made my 5 years at West Ham so good.
Yeah, and I can totally see that. You know, as you said, it's like I don't have anything. Well, I mean, obviously, you know, in my lifetime, obviously, West Ham have had a couple of playoff promotions. We've won, obviously, you know, when we went up in '92 as well. Our FA Cup final in 2006, you know, we weren't favourites, and to be honest, didn't seem like we'd lost that game because it was.
No, I understand that.
And so it was the same, you know. It was one of the rare occasions where I left a ground, and the other team supporters were saying, "Oh, you should have won that. You know, we were lucky," and it's like that doesn't usually happen with West Ham fans.
Yeah, that's true.
But obviously, 5 years, a massive number of players you've played with. As I said, what we try and do is we try and sort of put together, you know, an 11, 11 people, 11 players that mainly from a fan's perspective, but obviously from a playing perspective, it'd be great to get your handle on that, you know, of people you enjoy playing with the most in those positions. And obviously, you know, we can keep it as loose as we want. But obviously in the 5 years you were there, who would be your goalkeeper for your West Ham cross 11? If I could probably guess who it's going to be, but
yeah, it's difficult because obviously, you know, a lot of the lads who I was with over those 5 years are friends of mine, and
of course,
you know, to leave someone out of an 11 is very difficult.
I totally agree.
I think probably the goalkeeper is probably the easiest one, or one of the easiest ones, because Mervyn was a young keeper when I arrived, and that was the setup. Mervyn was in the side. Bobby Ferguson was the backup keeper, and Bobby had been our record signing, I think, and sorry, not our record signing. He had been the most expensive goalkeeper in the world when West Ham signed him from Kilmarnock all those years before. So Bobby was a good keeper, but he was fairly comfortable in the reserves and just stepping in occasionally for Mervyn.
Sure.
Mervyn had that fantastic start as a young keeper, the 74 and 75 years when he came in as a very young keeper. And I just think at the time I arrived, I think Mervyn was just feeling a little bit, I think it had got to him. I think the big occasions had got to him slightly. And I think the realization of playing for that club, if you like, the honeymoon was over, if you understand what I mean, and fans were getting on to him a little bit for the odd mistake he made. So when we signed Big Phil, I think that was, for me, it was almost like the last piece in John's jigsaw of the team that he felt could do really well for the club. So I think Big Phil would go in as my goalkeeper.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so, yeah.
Going on from that.
What's that? Sorry?
Going on from that.
Yeah, go on.
I say going on from that, it's very difficult to pick an 11 that isn't the cup final 11.
Yeah.
Because really that was probably our best side at the time. Patsy Holland was desperately unlucky because he got an injury, which allowed Paul Allen in to the side.
Yeah.
And little Paul obviously was the youngest player still to play in the cup final. So Patsy was a terrific player, but got such a bad injury. So it's very difficult to go astray from that side. I mean, I couldn't pick a better back four, for instance.
No.
Ray was, only a kid really when we signed him, but he was just so assured of himself and so confident. I can't remember him ever really making a mistake in the right back position. And you also got the extra bits from him because he got forward so well, and that strong right foot of his caused problems either with crosses or when he cut to the side and always shooting and scoring. So, Ray, Billy, and Alvin, I couldn't really replace them. And Frank at left back. I mean, Frank's a legend at the club, and so many games under his belt and never played for anyone else.
Totally. I mean, we can make it easier for you, David, and we'll just say you're 11. We'll just put them as the FA Cup winning team because then you don't have to worry.
Well, I mean, I think it's worth explanations as well. I mean, not I don't want to like sneak out and say those 11. But we had some good players in that team. Probably one of the best players of his era in Trevor in midfield. Then a young Alan Devonshire, who, but for his injury later, a couple of seasons after, would have gone on and probably played 40, 50 times for England. How we got Alan for 30 grand or whatever we paid.
I think it's £5 grand. £5 grand.
Right, okay, even more ridiculous. Our scouting network must have been really good because, Alan was a fantastic player. Yeah. So up front, that would be the difficult one for me because when I arrived at the club, I played in a front three with Pop Robson and Derek Hales. And Pop was a kind of a schoolboy idol for my period because I was a Newcastle United fan. And I used to watch Newcastle. I used to travel from Manchester. I used to sneak off school on a Friday afternoon and hitchhike up to Newcastle and watch the game the next day, stay with my family up there, my uncles and aunties. And Pop was the right winger then at that time. He was in the early 60s. He was a right winger for Newcastle United and went on to become a striker, obviously. And I never dreamt when I was watching him from the popular side at St James's Park that I would ever play alongside him for West Ham. So playing with him was a fantastic thing for me. And I learnt so much from him. I learned what the players did, particularly, and I've spoken about this loads of times, but I particularly picked up from Pop what Trevor did when he was on the ball and the deliveries that he was likely to put into the box. And I learned, at first when I played alongside Brian, that's Pop's, I'd see him make early runs into the box. I think, where's he going? You know, the ball's not going to come in there, but it did, and it was Trevor, because Trevor was on the ball, and Trevor put blind balls into the box. And by blind balls, I mean he would be facing one way, but he would play it into the box. So facing outwards, but he would still play a ball into the box. And basically would be saying to the strikers, look, you get on the end of it, I'm going to put it in there. And Pop knew that because he played with Trevor for such a long time. And I picked that up off Brian. So I started doing that after Brian had left. I started doing the same. And to give you an illustration of those kind of blind balls that, oh, you've got a cup of tea coming, Ross.
Yeah, I've got that. So it's a 99. That's the service I get for getting this. Sorry, David, carry on.
That's what I used to get that down your neck. That's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, to illustrate what I mean with Trevor putting the blind balls in, the one player who does that now, and I've never really seen any other player do it until recently, how Trevor used to do that, is Kevin De Bruyne from Manchester City.
Sure.
If you watch him carefully, he will put balls into the box behind the back line of the opposition. And, you know, Aguero will either get on the end of them or he doesn't. But he just puts those balls in, and he's saying what Trevor used to say to us, really. Look, get on the end of it. If you don't, you know, I'll be having a word with you at half time. So I did learn so much from Brian in the half season, really, that I played alongside him. Derek Hales, who I also played up front with in that period, was a fantastic finisher. I mean, Derek wasn't the most mobile striker I ever played alongside. He wasn't really quick, but I've never known anyone to be so cool in front of goal in terms of finishing. I mean, he was a fantastic finisher. And I think it was because I don't think anything bothered him. I think he was that kind of a character that nothing worried him at all. He just got on with what he got. Another brew coming.
What have we got coming now? Oh, it's a jury summons.
I know what it is. Yeah, it's the raspberry sauce.
Yes, the raspberry sauce. Carry on, David. Sorry.
So Derek, you know, he was just that kind of a character. He didn't care. He didn't give a monkeys really about anything, and he just got on with it. And I loved playing alongside him. And you know, he was just such a good finisher, just so cool in front of goal. And then from there, Stuart Pearson came, and I love playing with Stuart. We're still good friends now. We both live in the Manchester area. I'm on the north side of Manchester, Stuart's on the south side. So, but we're in contact with one another even now. And, you know, I remember him at Manchester United, and again, such a thrill to be alongside him because that's what I needed. You know, I knew what I was. I knew how I needed to play. I knew what I wasn't. And I wasn't Stuart Pearson, and I wasn't Derek Hales, and I wasn't Brian Robson, but I was a number 9, a proper old-fashioned number 9, if you like. And I felt that my job was to get in where it hurts, to score goals from possibly or in the 6-yard box, if I could. Because if I got myself in there and was in there finishing, that took their back 4 into that 6-yard box. And it created space for our midfield players to come in to the edge of the penalty area and put the ball away if it got tucked back. So I felt my job was to get in there. And I still think that's a number 9's real job, to get in there, certainly get into the penalty area, hopefully get into the 6-yard box and finish from there and score the goals, if you like, that people would say afterwards, well, I could have scored that, or my granny could have scored that. You're only 2 yards out. Well, yeah, your granny could have scored it, but could your granny have knocked those 3 centre halves out of the way to get in there? You know, and that was my job. So I knew what I was and I knew what I wasn't. And so playing alongside Stuart, he thrived playing off a striker who did the hard graft and took all the knocks and did all the heading on. And you know, he's such a fantastic finisher himself. And then from there, Paul Goddard. Again, Paul and I just, you know, dovetailed together so well. I could do what he couldn't do, and he could do what I couldn't do. So, and that was the key really to all the strikers I played with: Brian, Derek, Stuart, and Paul. I could do what they weren't very good at, and they could certainly do what I wasn't very good at. So, you know, it's very difficult to pick a striker from those 4 to to say that he would go in my best 11, I'd have to go back and say Brian Robson.
Yeah.
As a striker up front with a number 9. I'm assuming I'm picking myself in the team.
Yeah, of course, David.
Because I want to try and get the win bonus.
Yeah, you'll get any goal. But yeah, but I mean, as you said, you speak so fondly of Robson that it's not just obviously playing with him, but obviously, as you said, you already were an idol of his, so to speak, from his earlier days, and it's lovely to hear. It's lovely to hear that. What's it like playing with your idol like that?
It was strange, and I only had 6 months playing with Brian because he left at the end of that season where we went down, which was the 77-78 season. So I only had that short time with him, but I did learn so much from him, and he was, he was willing to help as well. I would ask him. I mean, I was very curious, and I always wanted to learn, and I would ask him. So what? I saw you run into the near post. What would you doing that for, Brian? He'll say, yeah, but Trevor puts blind balls in crosses, so I go early, and the defenders wonder where I'm going. And when the ball comes in, it's a surprise, and I'm on the end of it, and I took it away and I've scored. So Brian was willing to give that information, and help me, and I did learn such a lot from him. And he was a marvelous player. He really was. I mean, how he never played for England, God knows.
Well, you've got a few here. You got obviously Billy, famously never played for England as well.
Yeah. Patsy played many times.
Yeah, not many. But yeah, I mean, it's I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Sometimes it's looking back at here. Obviously from my era, obviously you've got people like Julian Dix who never played for England and stuff like that. Sure, there is a thread, a common thread of these people who haven't played for West Ham, I think, but conspiracy theories. So if we went with Parksy, and then we went with the back four, as you said, and then we went with you and Robson up front. We got Dev, we got Brooklyn, we've got space for 2 more people.
I mean, we had Francois van der Elst. Was a marvellous player who could play in that position. You've got a right-sided player. I mean, Patsy Holland, Jimmy Neighbour. I mean, I'd probably want Patsy.
Yeah.
Patsy on the right-hand side. Again, not quick, but put balls into the box. I remember having a conversation with Patsy one half time in one particular game. I can't remember. I know we were at Upton Park, but he just said to me at half time, sorry, Crossy. He said, I should, when I was running up with 10 minutes to go to half time, I looked up to see if I could find you, and I couldn't see you, so I didn't want to put the ball in the box. And I said to him, Patsy, don't think you want to find me. You put the ball in the box, I'll find the ball, believe me. I said, just put it in. I said, if I know you're going to put it in, I'll get on the end of it, believe me. I said, I'll do everything I can to get on the end of it. Don't think you've got to look for me and be able to search me out. Put it in the box. And from then on, Pat did that. He just put balls in the box, and that's what I wanted. I wanted the opportunity to be able to finish. And I said to him, I said, look, if I don't get on the end of it, you can blame me. But if you don't put it in the box, Pat, I'm going to give you a kick up the backside. So I really enjoyed playing with Patsy, and it was a tragedy, really, the injury he got, where he missed out so much on the glory that we had that day at Wembley. And there's a inside right, I suppose you might say, or a central midfield. I would think I'd probably, alongside the ones I played with, I would say probably Pikey. I know there's little Paul Allen was learning the game really when I played alongside him. But Pikey was probably one of those unsung lads who did the hard graft and didn't get a great deal of praise for it. But Jeff was a good solid player, and probably gave us that little bit of strength in there, and a little bit of cover when you thought of how attacking the other 3 were. Because if Trevor was pushing forward to the edge of the box and Dev was going up the left-hand side, you did need someone to sit in there and just give you a bit of defensive balance. And I think Jeff did that very well. So that would probably be my 11.
Yeah, and it would. That's the thing. And I mean, obviously, you guys played compared to now. the state of the pitches, like bogs of pitches and things like that, that 11 on the bowling greens of London Stadium or whatever would be outstanding, I think, particularly Sir Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor, when you think of the way Trevor played and on those pitches, he was a genius, Trevor. He really was. When I arrived at the club, I wasn't certain about playing with Trevor because he wasn't quick. He wasn't the fittest lad we had. If we had a training session and we had a sprint, Trevor would be last. If we had a 5-mile run, Trevor would be last. And yet, on a Saturday afternoon, give him the ball with 15 minutes left and we're 1-0 up on a boggy pitch, and you could just give it him and he'd keep it for a minute, and just he was so strong, so technically gifted, that it was just a joy to play with. He was an absolute genius, and as you say, playing on those pitches that we played on, I mean, we'd never. It was no different to us anyway, because that's what it was for us. Start of the season, you played on the lovely grass pitches, but once you got into the autumn and winter, and they started getting a bit heavy, then football really comes out. Then I think the good players with the good first touch come through in those situations, and we were well known as a footballing side. And I think we tried to play football all the time, even on those kind of pitches.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's something I don't think that people appreciate. Nowadays, obviously, everyone's got opportunities now to look back, and obviously, the club are replaying, obviously, the FA Cup final and just season reviews and things like that have been on tape. And I think people don't appreciate, the conditions really, because actually, you said it was no different to you playing on different pitches. Those sort of boggy pitches when it came to sort of December and the snow and the rain, but in comparison to today's pitches, I think to see your team playing again, although it wouldn't work, but so virtually something would be absolutely amazing, because I think you just see so much. I think it'd be a greater appreciation because of what happened. David, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed listening to your stories. It's been really fun.
Are we finished?
Yeah. This is it, David. As I said, half an hour. That's all going to take your time. And obviously, I want to thank everyone else who's obviously watching the YouTube channel, watching the video. Please like and share and subscribe. Until next time, everybody, take care and stay safe, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
One thing I did want to get across, which I think I've got across before the interview, was one of the reasons I did so well. You quoted my figures there: 225 games and 99 goals, which was my best record in terms of goals per game for any club I played for. But the main reason for that was that how I was accepted by the West Ham fans.
Yeah,
I wasn't a typical West Ham player. And I would have wanted to get that across, actually.
No, I'll put it. No, we'll put it on at the end. It's fine. We'll put it on at the end. You did mention we'll put that on as sort of an extra bit.
But it was a major factor for me, that the acceptance by the fans for a player who wasn't one of theirs, really. You know what I mean? I wasn't a West Ham player. I wasn't easy on the eye. I was just what I was, and to be accepted by those fans, and even now, like people, say I was a popular player for the club. It's really, it's like heartwarming for me to think of that. And the reason I did so well in terms of goals that I scored was because I was so keen to just get out at Upton Park and play on that pitch, because I could almost do no wrong, which was a marvellous thing for a footballer to feel. It was, I owe the fans a lot, and that's why I'm always prepared to turn up for events that are put on, or do things like this, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. David, that will be in the episode. Don't worry, I'll put that in because it's lovely to hear.